Hi and welcome to Highbrow, Lowbrow. I'm your host Ron. With me here is Shaun Sensei. Each week we get together to discuss a well-regarded, highly acclaimed film against a cheesy blockbuster.
Basically an artsy-fartsy film versus a mindless good time. All right, Ron, what's your first pick? What's the highbrow choice of this week?
My pick for this week is Kurosawa's Rashomon.
All right, cool. Cheers it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Rashomon is a 1950 jidaigeki psychological thriller directed by Akira Kurosawa. The plot of this story and characters are based upon Ryunosuke Akutagawa's short story In a Grove and another short story of his, Rashomon. Every element is largely identical, from the murdered samurai speaking through a Shinto psychic, the bandit in the forest, the monk, the rape of the wife, and the dishonest retelling of the events in which everyone shows their ideal self by lying. So Shaun, what do you think of Rashomon?
Well, Rashomon obviously is a classic. I mean, I've seen Rashomon before, and every time I've seen it, it's definitely revelatory. There's so many different layers to it, especially with the repetitive story, the story told in multiple sequences. I always find that highly interesting and fascinating. How there's not even a distinct commitment to this idea of truth, like even the idea of truth that's proposed by like the last version of the story. It's this somewhat of a love triangle between a bandit, a noble lady, maybe a noble lady, it's your call, bandit, noble lady, and a noble gentleman. And so each of these individuals, the bandit, the noble lady, and the noble gentleman, have their own version of this story with a fourth story by an outsider. But each of these stories has their own sort of twist to how the scene actually played out. And so you never really know what the truth of the thing is. And I think that's really interesting how they compare and contrast each idea of what truth can be with each story. Obviously, the film techniques in this film are great. Some shaky cam, some roaming footage, really good management of the blocking. You go through the brush, you see the perspective of certain people as they look from character to character. You see the wife's perspective as she looks from the husband to the bandit to the husband, and tries to make these difficult choices between the two. So it's a very well executed movie, and delves deep into the ideas of truth. Each of these perspectives are different, and so you have the nobleman's character and what he thinks the bandit wants and what he thinks the wife wants. Then you have the wife's character and what she thinks the bandit wants and what she thinks the nobleman wants, and it all just flips and changes, and you're never really sure of where it really lies. I mean, I think you can make an approximation, but I think it's interesting to see how they intermingle and what their ideas of what they want and what the truth is, facilitate so greatly, and it's super interesting to see the versions of truth people present. And I think there's a lot of poetry and a lot of poetry in the way that it's executed, the speech and the thoughts, the contemplations of the various characters from the three main characters, but then also the sort of outside bystanders. I'm supposing he's like some sort of like farmer guy, the guy who's an observer to the thing.
Yeah, and then there's a monk.
There's a monk,
and then there's he's not really a bandit, but he's kind of like a vagabond.
Yeah, vagabond. Yeah, how those each perceive it too adds another layer to what this could mean.
Is that what you said? 3 times 3?
Yeah.
Times 3?
Times 3. Just keep on going.
Okay.
So there's just so many layers to it. It's shot really well, executed really, really well, and it's a thoughtful movie done strongly with a lot of layers to it, and a lot of ways to interpret it and to read it.
Yeah. The most fascinating thing for me is that this is Kurosawa's. I mean, it's a classic, but it's not. It's a samurai movie without being a samurai movie. It's more like a court case kind of thing. the structure of the story is very unconventional in that what's beginning, middle, end, you know? There's just a retelling of story A, B, and C, and then suddenly there's a D,
Yeah.
and then you go back to the actual main story of the three individuals in the temple. I love the fact that you got Kurosawa's, signature epic rain just falling through. I read and I saw in documentaries that he actually will like get like cranes and make it rain for days on end, and they'll shoot that way. And every Japanese kind of knows what Rashomon is, but they've never read the short story. As far as I know, it's a story about, I don't know because I've never read it, but it's about like a gate. Mon is a gate, so it's a gate where an old woman takes everything from you. So in a way, that's kind of like what happened to this story. Does it, it takes away the humanity of things. And it's one of those things where even at the end of the movie, even now, you're still kind of trying to figure out where it was headed, what it was about. You can certainly apply it to modern concerns of being in social media and presenting your point of view, highlighting your best self and how you would want to be portrayed. And you see this with the bandit. He's a bandit, but in the end, he actually releases the guy and challenges him honorably. And then you get the samurai guy speaking through the psychic, where he was betrayed by his wife, and therefore he's like, why don't you kill yourself? You are dishonored. And then you see it from the wife, where she was forced into it, and then she had to like do these things, and she had to make a choice because she was afraid. So, and it's all in the self-interest of the individuals concerned. However, the last bit, one of the farmer guy, what was that about, right? That's what kind of made me think, because ultimately you can kind of deduce that, okay, well, he's the one that has the real story. But then again, this is about presenting your best self. Was that the truth? And what was the point of that? What did he come out, what was in it for him? Or was he really telling the truth? It's a very light-hearted kind of trial film in the samurai period, but it contains a lot. It packs a big punch. And so that's why I feel like, even though it's not Yojimbo, it's not Seven Samurai, it's not Ron, it's not Blood of Throne of Blood, something like that, Rashomon still holds up as one of Kurosawa's heavyweight contenders.
Yeah. I was thinking, it's interesting how there is different levels of truth. And I think the idea is almost, there's a semi-idea that the fourth perspective, the perspective of the observer, is the closest thing to the truth. But I think even that perspective is tainted because it's so identified with him. And I think
because they have that end bit.
Yeah.
Right? Because if it just ended with him saying his piece and actually revealing what really happened, then you're kind of like ending in the story. It's like, oh, that's what really happened.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's that end bit with the baby.
Yeah.
So you're like, what the fuck is that about? And why is that related to his story of things? So,
I mean, even like, especially given that creates a context of the observer having his own ideals and motivations for what he's saying. And I think from the perspective of the observer, even how those characters play out. How the nobleman, the wife, and the bandit play out. They could be his idea of what those people are. Like, you have an idea of what a noble person is. You have an idea of what a cheating wife is. You have an idea of what a bandit is. So that could definitely color his story. And so, and in fact, I think that goes to the story about the baby, where the baby, how he tries to take care of the baby, or I forget what exactly happens, but how he interacts with the baby definitely tells a little bit about his character. One thing I want to mention, I think everyone does obviously a good job in this film, but the highlight, of course, for me was, what's the fellow's name again? The bandit?
Toshiro Mifune.
Toshiro Mifune.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
He can play whatever.
He's such a great sort of exuberant, crazy, manic bandit.
Or not. Like, you've seen him in roles where he was very reserved.
Oh, yeah. But in this film...
In this film, yeah.
He's all out there, He's sort of like... He's ruling the roost. Going here and there and just sort of eschewing all the levels of decorum, just running around like a crazy man with his sword, like 90% of the time. And I thought that was like highly entertaining and super fun.
And from the get-go, you're kind of like, oh shit, this guy, he's a beast. He's an animal. Like, he's innocent. He's neither good or bad, but he just happens to be a human being. Yeah. So he is expected to abide by our moral code, but he is in fact an animal. Like, he acts upon his own thing, but you can see his human side when he's actually concerned about honor as well. Like, yeah, like, I actually did. If, I fell off a horse. Are you crazy? I could have beaten him.
I mean, I almost think that he's an element of chaos that the couple looks to use for themselves. So they see him as this element of insanity, but eventually they begin to manipulate him to what, like, I would say, obviously the wife does like manipulation. I think more or less in all three versions of the story, but even the husband does some manipulation, with Toshiro Mifune's character.
Well,
because he's trying to, he essentially disowns the wife, and he
right. But the husband is kind of like a typical cog in the machine kind of dude. He is the guy that's like this, and therefore dishonor means that's it. He's kind of like that straight edge guy, and she's like the woman in society that understands the risks and balances of things. Meanwhile, Mifune comes in as the wild card, disrupting everything. He's not grotesquely ugly. In fact, he looks attractive, and he is charismatic as well.
Yeah.
And so therefore, he is in a way the temptation both for the female and the male. Female meaning like she wants him, and the male wanting to break out of this social constraint of just being proper. And in all four stories, there's always that thing where we have to come back to society. Yeah. And not all three of us can come back.
Yeah.
Only two of us can come back. So, it's just one of those movies where you really have to, you get discussions about it, and that's what we're talking about it today.
Yeah,
so.
For sure. So that's what we thought of Akira Kurosawa's Rashomon. Next up is my lowbrow pick. Ron decided to bring a sword or a knife, and I decided to bring the guns. Next up, Shoot 'em Up. Directed by Michael Davis, Shoot 'em Up is about carrot-crunching gunman Mr. Smith, who after saving a newborn infant from assassin, teams up with a prostitute named DQ to protect the baby from further attacks. With hitman Hearst hot on their trail, Smith and DQ uncover a dying senator's plot to harvest bone marrow from babies just like the one in their arms. All right, Ron, what did you think of this lowbrow pick?
I like lowbrow films a lot.
Uh-oh.
But I don't know. It's fun. It's mindless. But I don't know if I'll ever watch it again. You know, the thrill about lowbrow films is that you can watch it again and again, and you get the same satisfaction. It's got a lot of good things going for it. The character of Smith, maybe that's it. The character of Smith, you know, but at the same time, he couldn't really, they couldn't really decide, whether to make it serious or funny or go back and forth. They couldn't do James Gunn style Guardians of the Galaxy, funny, 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 serious, serious, emotional, funny, funny, serious, serious, epic, and then go back to funny. They couldn't really do that. They were stuck in like funny, funny, don't take it seriously. He's winning, winning, winning. And then suddenly when you get to a point where it's supposed to feel serious, you don't really care. At least I didn't. It didn't pull the emotional strings. So yeah, I just found myself kind of just waiting for the next scene. It's entertaining, it's funny, but I don't think I'll ever watch it again. I like the actors. What's his name?
Clive Owen.
Clive Owen with the carrots. Great character. He's always been a great character. And Monica Bellucci.
Yeah, Monica Bellucci.
Super hot, as always. Can't believe she did this movie. We could have done it, Sean. We could have done it. But, what's his name?
Paul Giamatti.
Giamatti, right?
Yeah, Paul Giamatti.
As a bad guy, he was effective in his own way. The way he was acting, he could be creepy and intelligent at the same time. But the script, I feel, is the problem, because the way the story arc works is that you don't really take anything seriously. Look at Deadpool, right? Deadpool is kind of like silly, don't take anything seriously, break the fourth wall. But when it comes time to hit the feels, it does hit the feels. This movie is incapable of doing that. It just didn't have that.
And I think this movie does a pretty thorough job of putting on that thin veneer of emotional paint, but mainly making it about the insane sort of nutty things going on, especially and it ramps it up constantly. Like you have the dude shooting people with like gun strings, like guns on strings,
right,
and stuff.
yeah.
And then you have the dude blasting people away in midair, like just flying away. And it's super, super ridiculous. And then all the carrots and the character of Mr. Smith increases in his like silliness and his like pettiness. There's this running joke where he just, you know what I really hate? And whenever he encounters a situation where he really hates something, it's just like, oh, how's he gonna handle this one? He's like he is literally like a Bugs Bunny of guns. Yeah, for sure. There's no depth. There's no depth to it except the depth with which they'll go to make it silly or make it nutty or to take it to the next level. From the pure implausibility of shooting a merry-go-round or like a spinny like top thingy where he's shooting it and he has the baby like fly off and he has to catch it. Like, you know, and then the bad guy, Paul Giamatti, is like taking this utterly seriously, and he's like snidely like comments on it. Oh, he's got me again, you know, like a stupid Wile E. Coyote as a man, you know, but still played with like a decent amount of menace. Yeah, I think there's a really good sense of zaniness, and I think this movie, I know it misses the feels. I think there's some feels put on there because there's like a relationship between Monica Bellucci and Clive Owen, and they sort of have like this love thing going on, but it's pretty thin. And obviously
but you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
it could be really thin. It could be meaningless. But that's the brilliance of a good lowbrow film, is that it can pull you in and then suddenly throw you back, and you're like laughing your ass out. It's just, I feel like the supporting. I mean, he's the best. He's the best character in the movie, Mr. Smith, and the way he does things. And by the way, I really agree with the blinkers. Like, fuck you guys who don't use your blinkers, you lazy fucks. I don't even understand. You know, like, I wanted to do what he did, like just fucking ran. That's it. You know. But it doesn't have. I blame it on the supporting characters, really. The villain, he's supposed to be menacing, but he's really not. And he could have been. He's such a great actor. I don't know. It doesn't have the ups and downs. It wasn't a roller coaster ride. It was just a, you know, in the beginning, it's kind of like click, 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 and then it's just a descent. But after you scream and yell and holler, you're like, okay, well, we're just going down.
I think it's definitely interesting if you know, watching it with some friends, not necessarily paying a ton of attention to it, but there's a innumerable amount of scenes that you could like check out and be like, what the fuck is going on here, and go like, oh hey, that's fucking ridiculous that he's like flying through the air, blasting people halfway across the world, and oh, now he has no hands. What is he gonna do now? Well, he's got to use his like carrot to like shoot guns and shit. I think it's one of those films that takes the descent, because you're comparing it to a roller coaster. I'll use your roller coaster thing. It's like the Tower of Terror. The faster you go down, the more you go down, the fast. And yeah, sure, there isn't necessarily like a nice light landing at the end, but I think, you know, just fully embracing that sense of this is going to continue on in crazy infinity, because you can see even in the ending scene where Clive Owen is defending DQ, Monica Bellucci's character, and the baby from these like crackhead bad guys. It's just more insanity. It's like more craziness. Like, and he's like, well, here's some more crazy to send you off, and he shoots the camera, and the movie's like done.
So that's what we thought about Shoot 'Em Up. Next up is Verdict.
So Ron, which movie did you end up liking more?
Well, you know, I gotta go with Rashomon. Shoot 'em Up was a. It's not that I hate the movie. I'm kind of complaining about it because it had great potential and it didn't really deliver my highbrow kind of criteria, or lowbrow criteria rather. Rashomon is just, it's a classic. It takes a lot not to have a samurai movie without being a samurai movie. The way the story arc, the way the script was written, everything was so unconventional and yet so effective, and it became a classic. Whereas Shoot 'Em Up had a very simple formula to fulfill, and yet it's failed in that attempt. It had the jokes, it had the characters. It's just the script, the way things happened. Don't get me wrong, it's still a fun movie. It's still something that you can watch, and you can tell your friends to watch it. It's still an awesome movie. The actors are super great, but it's not in the same vein as like movies like Guardians of the Galaxy, Deadpool, or even all the 80s movies that you can think of that are cheesy. But the appeal to a lowbrow film is that it has heart. This one only had cheese. It didn't have heart. That's my main complaint about Shoot 'Em Up. It didn't have heart. It only got cheese, and that the two to make a lowbrow classic, you gotta have heart and cheese. So Rashomon, obviously, it's an undisputed champ. It's a classic. I picked it because there's barely any action. It's such an unconventional way of storytelling, filmmaking, that to make something so effective, you're really taking a chance. What a chance to take, and what a gamble. And it really paid off, and we know it today because it's a classic. So Rashomon is my pick. I wanted to pick a lowbrow film, but it is what it is.
So yeah, I think I'm also going to go with Rashomon. Obviously, it's a classic film. It's very interesting how it tells the story in a multitude of ways, conveying different sentiments. Obviously, Akira Kurosawa is a masterful filmmaker. He does things very artfully, and I think it's executed poetically because they have these intermingling stories that you can take to mean in a multitude of ways, and it's very enlightening as a introspective look into how our views create the world around us. But to credit Shoot 'Em Up, I think with Shoot 'Em Up and with lowbrow movies in general, it's almost like a bare bones embrace of a ridiculous movie. Sometimes you watch a lowbrow movie to get hurt, but also you're watching with a lowbrow movie to make fun of it and also slightly vaguely enjoy the insane action, the nuttiness. I can't watch Rashomon stoned and high, or stoned and drunk, and I can watch this movie stoned and drunk, and I could like pass out, right? I could like sort of fade out and like hang out with some friends over here, and then come all the way back to Shoot 'Em Up and be like, what the fuck? Holy shit, this is like crazy. And that's what I sort of get from, and I think Ron is right that it doesn't ride a roller coaster, but it doubles down on each step of the way. And I think that's what sort of sells it to me, is that it's a level of braveness in terms of like, all right, here's this level. Let's go down to this level. Let's go down to this level. Let's go down to this level. It is a one-note story for sure, but it keeps on going down that one note and just tries to ratchet it up to the nth degree. And I always appreciate that. I always appreciate a film that's willing to just be silly and weird and crazy and nuts and just have fun with the ideas that the character has, and just be like off the wall, sort of zany, carrot crunching, gun shooting action. So I am picking Rashomon, just to be clear, but I do enjoy the zany, carrot crunching, nutso action of Shoot 'Em Up.
So that's what we thought about those two films. Be sure to tune in next time to find out who is right.
Ron or Shaun? See you guys.
So, end of the season, Shaun. This is the last episode. What'd you think of the whole thing?
So I did Highbrow, Lowbrow previously with Jesse Micek, and now I brought it up again because of quarantine. We don't have much to do, so we figured we might as well do a show in our apartment. This is our lovely abode. So I wanted to do it again with you to reclaim the glory of Highbrow and Lowbrow in a slightly different format. I think it's been a fun time. I do think we want to sort of give a slight pause between seasons, and I think this is our season 1. I think it's been an exciting season 1. I'm curious to see what happens next with Highbrow, Lowbrow. What do you think of it?
I really had fun. It's something that I've never done. Shaun had this show for a while. They had like 100-something episodes.
86 episodes.
86 episodes in a podcast version. So we just made it our own. Definitely something. Any filmmakers, anybody that's into films, you'd want to sit down and fuck coronavirus, right? Like things move on. Things don't let it dominate you.
Well, yeah. I mean, this show is like something to keep in practice, to keep us making things, because we're both filmmakers. We like to make projects and make content, make media, whatever.
But at the same time, it's also very I wouldn't have seen the films we saw without Shaun.
Forcing them down your throat.
Well, yeah, sometimes things need to be kind of like mandatory. I really believe in the handing out of cards. Life gives you cards, and then you have to play it, and it's something that you need to grow. It's part of your journey. It's so individualized that I really welcome that, and I really thank Shaun for giving that. It's an experience. Some films I like, some films I don't, but it doesn't matter. It's the journey that matters. And for all of you who would watch a series and would watch an arc, it's always been the arc that matters, right? It's the unexpected. It's the things that you don't really foresee, and it's not plan A or B, it's plan C. So things like that. To me, it's been fun, but at the same time, it's it's a thing to do, but at the same time, we got things to work on as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things that I've always wanted people to take away with this show, in this iteration or in previous iterations, is the idea of talking about the media that you consume. I mean, I don't know if Ron's necessarily behind this idea, but I definitely I think he probably is. Talking about the media you consume, about the movies you watch and how you consume them and what you think about them. I think the dialogue around movies and discussing them and in any form of media, but in this context, movies, gives you a higher appreciation of films and gives you a better way of identifying a movie outside of it sucks or it's good. Really thinking about how you process a movie and how you enjoy a movie is, I feel, super important because it gives you a much better perspective as to why what's good is good and what's bad is bad. In your viewpoint.
But so this is the end of the season. What's your memorable highlight of the whole thing? What did you enjoy most? What episode you thought? Because you know what, we would edit the thing.
Yeah.
And so we would see the clips and all that. What was your favorite episode?
I don't know.
If any.
I don't know. I think there's like a lot of good moments. It's sort of hard pressed to like come up with moments in my head. I think the episodes we had with guest stars was definitely very cool. They're all appreciated. It was really cool to have Jesse back on the show, doing it again with us to see his different energy. And each guest contributed something unique. Jesse with his sort of even-handedness and familiarity with the show. Steven with his breadth of knowledge. Christine with her like unique perspective and
Mike is just a horror. So,
Mike's just crazy.
You're a horror, Mike.
He's a cult leader horror. But yeah, I think they all offered something interesting. Although I think I do really appreciate the one-on-one type of dialogue that we've had. I think we've had some really interesting conversations. I feel like I want to say the Watership Down. What was it versus against? It was versus against.
It was dystopian. Right?
Dystopian, right? Yeah. Watership Down versus.
I don't even remember.
Yeah. I thought the conversation we had about Watership Down was really cool. I had a good time with that one. But yeah, I think there was a lot of fun conversations and good points made by the both of us. All the guest hosts were really cool. Was there anything that stood out to you?
Yeah, me, myself, and Irene. I still can't believe that you didn't like that you're such a hater, and you hated the comedy classic.
And well, it's a romantic comedy, right? Romantic comedy, and you did.
I did Me, Myself, and Irene, and you know what? Shaun just took a big dump on it.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck, right?
The biggest revelation, the most impactful film for me was The Young Girls of Rockford. That movie was like, just walloped me. It just like smacked me across the fucking face. That was the movie that I hadn't watched before, but when I did watch it, I was like, holy shit, this is like next level shit. So that movie stood out to me for sure.
That was good. Yeah. I think I went to your side.
Yeah. I think that's like one of the rare times that you went to my side.
I went to your side a lot.
Oh, sure.
He barely goes to the dark side.
Yeah.
Ever. Was there ever an episode where that you remember right now? I'm pretty sure if we go through the things that we'll see it, but was there ever an episode where you remember that you never saw this and you're like, oh wow, this is actually good? That I recommended.
That you recommended. I think I did have a good time with Flesh and Blood. I don't know if I picked Marketa Lazarova with it.
You did.
Yeah.
You did, but yeah.
I did have a really good time with
Flesh and Blood.
Flesh and Blood. I thought that was a really interesting one. Yeah, I'm trying to.
For me, for Sean, I'm very thankful for him. Which one was that? The detective guy
Detective.
with the AI, and like occupied.
Oh
Occupied.
Project Alphaville or Alphaville. Alphaville is the movie, the French one, right?
Right.
Yeah,
For me, it's Alphaville.
yeah.
I
But
really,
you still picked. I think because that was the Steven one, right? It was Alphaville versus Strange Days. I think.
did I pick Strange Days?
I feel like you did, but I'm not sure. I might be wrong.
If I'm thankful for anything that Sean recommended, it would have been Alphaville, because I was like, or Alphaville and the serial killer guy.
Man Bites Dog.
Man Bites Dog.
That was a.
Alphaville and Man Bites Dog, to me, was like, I couldn't have done it on my own. That was a thing that, I was like, wow, I wouldn't have seen this. Regrets, Stalker. everybody is like, there was this hot girl that I know that like Stalker. I told her, like, look, I saw it. It sucked. A lot of people like Stalker. It sucked to me. Sorry, but Alphaville and Man Bites Dog,
Yeah.
absolutely awesome. Stalker, I hate. I don't know what the fuck you guys see about that film.
Sure,
You guys
sure.
are communists.
Everyone's just a bunch of communists waiting
Yeah,
for
yeah, they're
for Andrei Tarkovsky to like.
They want to kill eagles and cook them and eat them
Yeah.
because they're against freedom in America.
Yeah, I think I think you've definitely mentioned a lot of classic films, classic films that are always good to revisit and always good to check out. I don't know. I'm a little drunk, so it's hard to remember exactly going through all the stuff. We've done 22 episodes as of this episode of Highbrow, Lowbrow. And obviously now it's coming to an end. So
You need more, Sean.
sure.
What the fuck?
So I guess the question is, what's next? Is there? I would say right now, I think there's like a bit of a hiatus where we recharge our batteries and sort of just try to figure out what's next. What's the next iteration of Highbrow, Lowbrow? Is it another season of this? Is it a new formulation of things? Because both of us are going through different things in our lives, and we have to like change things up, et cetera, yada yada yada.
So fuck you guys.
Okay. I think if there comes a version of Highbrow, Lowbrow, it might come down
I don't mind doing bonus encore
episodes. Yeah, sure.
encore episodes.
Yeah, 6 months down the line, 5 months down the line, depends on
even next week.
even next week. So we'll probably keep doing it and keep on releasing it. I think I personally want to sort of increase, maybe not increase the production value, but maybe change things up a little bit. Or maybe have a new intro, maybe do some other things. We'll see if that sort of happens. But we're going to take a small break for the holidays, as we close down on Thanksgiving and Christmas. We'll be visiting family and spending time with friends, and we also have projects that we want to get to.
We're gonna get infected by coronavirus.
Yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully not.
Fuck this.
So we're sort of we're going to take a small hiatus. We're going to call it season 1. Season 1, 22 episodes of Highbrow, Lowbrow with Roun and Shaun. And then, expect maybe in the new year, new season or a new iteration of Highbrow Lowbrow with new episodes where we continue to talk about highbrow movies and lowbrow movies and trying to figure out what our happy medium is.
Fuck you guys.
As always, be sure to tune in next time when we try to find out who was right.
Shaun or Ron?
Later.